Up before we begin, if you need to use the washroom, washrooms are out the door, sort of like at 10 o'clock through a hallway. There's coffee, tea, water out in the hall. Please go grab yourself something before we begin in about 10-15 minutes time. Merci beaucoup.
This is live. Let me just mute it on the board, and then when you speak, I'll unmute it for you.
Everyone, we're about to get started. 30 seconds, great. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be back at UNB with all of you today. My name is Katie Davey, and I'm a public policy lead at the Public Policy Forum. And I lead all of our work here in Atlantic Canada, so it's a real pleasure to be here with you and share this conversation today. I'll be emceeing with my colleague Matt, and Matt, I'll pass it over to you to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you very much, Katie. It's a pleasure to work with you again on a co-hosted event with the Public Policy Forum and UNB Shaping the Debate. My name is Matt DeCourcy, and I'm a senior advisor with the president here at the University of New Brunswick, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all today. I'll just remind you before we begin, washrooms are out at about 10 o'clock down a hallway once you exit the auditorium here. There's coffee, tea, water, and we will be having a break before moving into the last few sessions of the day. I want to acknowledge and thank you all for being here, acknowledge my colleague in the President's Office, our Associate Vice President for Strategic Communications, Sarah Martel, who is here. And I want to welcome to the stage our Vice President Research, Dave McGee, who will welcome you all to campus and provide a land acknowledgement. Dave.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dave McGee, Vice President of Research at the University of New Brunswick, and on behalf of the Public Policy Forum, I would like to welcome all of you here this afternoon in UNB Shaping the Debate. I want to begin by respectfully acknowledging that UNB stands on the unsurrendered and unceded traditional Wolastoqey land. The lands of the Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs through our province is known as the Wolastoq, along which live Wolastoqey, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. Wolastoq is also called the St. John River. We are here to talk about scaling up the Atlantic Canadian economy through digital transformation. We can do this by embracing and developing technological innovation and by supporting the vision of homegrown entrepreneurs educated and employed here in our region. Each year, UNB expands its reach and impact in New Brunswick and beyond. At home, we deliver 70% of New Brunswick's sponsored research, driving innovation and addressing the grand challenges we face. Further afield, our researchers work with partners and colleagues around the globe on the groundbreaking research inquiry that will shape our world of tomorrow. As we look ahead, our institution's newest endeavors, including the McKenna Institute, the Integrated Health Initiative, and the Spectral Spatial Computing Laboratory, among many others, as well as existing strengths such as the J. Herbert Smith Centre, will continue to propel UNB forward. UNB is committed to amplifying the ways digital technologies and strategies can grow our economy and improve the standard of living for all New Brunswickers and Canadians. Today, we can see the power of digital to transform our economy and society. Now is the time to capitalize on this opportunity and momentum. In September 2021, UNB established the McKenna Institute with this very goal. The McKenna Institute will be instrumental in fueling digital-powered economic growth and social progress in New Brunswick. The Institute has already secured commitments of more than $25 million from the private sector and generous alumni and donors who understand the importance of digital transformation for all industries. Recently, UNB and the McKenna Institute announced the creation of the Barrett Chair in Entrepreneurship for Digital Transformation. The chair will support increased research and experiential learning opportunities in computer science. The McKenna Institute also appointed Matt McGuire as the inaugural McKenna Fellow in Digital Education. This fellowship will help with K-12 literacy and education technology courses at UNB. By supporting strategic research chairs and initiatives, targeted training and employment partnerships, the McKenna Institute will nurture a workforce that's ready to lead the field. Later this afternoon, we'll hear directly from Adrian O'Prey, Executive Director of the McKenna Institute, and have the special privilege of hearing from its benefactor and founder, the Honourable Frank McKenna. UNB is developing the talent to sustain the recent economic boom in Atlantic region. The university partners with more than 650 employers to provide more than 6,000 students with hands-on work and training each year. In our graduate program, students have the opportunity to develop their skills and knowledge through access to leading-edge research and technologies and through partnerships that enable them to solve real-world challenges. They develop skills that are in high demand by employers and communities who need creative, strategic thinkers. They can also develop their capacity as highly qualified personnel, versed in the newest, most complex systems emerging industries require. In so doing, students are well prepared to solve the pressing challenges facing the world today, leading change in their communities and in their workplaces. One of those grand challenges in our region is the transformation of healthcare to respond to the needs of the future. To address that challenge, we are growing capacity through the Integrated Health Initiative, an innovative program that will contribute to healthcare reform and improvement. The IHI, as we affectionately know it as here in UNB, is truly interdisciplinary, bringing together biomedical sciences, social sciences, and business education. Additionally, with funding secured through the McKenna Institute, UNB is partnering with Shoppers Drug Mart to develop prototype solutions to improve health outcomes that could be deployed nationally. Digital technology touches nearly every aspect of our lives. Here, how we interact with each other has changed. How we learn, how we tackle the grand challenges we face, indeed, challenges themselves have changed. And how we conduct business has changed forever. At UNB, we're actively contributing to that domain as well. For example, the J. Herbert Smith Centre hosts the Scale Up Atlantic Canada program. Their companies from across the Atlantic region connect with the Centre through monthly workshops designed to help them successfully and sustainably scale up their businesses. UNB researchers, supported by the Research and Innovation Partnerships team, regularly work with companies large and small to develop new inventions, test solutions, and provide their expertise and insight. Over the past 9 years, UNB has contributed to the establishment of more than 190 startup companies. We add $125.5 million to the economic output in annual startup and spin-off activity. Over 180 local businesses have participated in Entrepreneurship Acceleration Program at UNB, and participating companies have created hundreds of jobs. Responsible for much of the momentum behind UNB startup success, Dr. Dhirendra Shukla, the Dr. J. Herbert Smith ACOA Chair in Technology Management and Entrepreneurship, will be in conversation with some of the business leaders who are supporting our region's growth. I want to thank the Honourable Jeanette Petitpas-Taylor, Minister of Official Languages and Minister responsible for the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, for the greetings she will soon be delivering virtually. And we are grateful to our ongoing partnership with ACOA. Among many others, they have supported our drive to grow computer science enrollment, the development of smart grid innovation research, and the Energia's program's clean tech accelerators. ACOA recognizes the importance of developing and supporting impactful research and technologies here at UNB and around Atlantic Canada. Finally, I want to thank Ed Greenspoon and the entire team at PPF for their partnership and collaboration, and wish all our distinguished guests and all of you for joining us in a fruitful day and dialogue this afternoon. Thank you very much. See if I can remember to do this right. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Dave. It's now my pleasure to welcome virtually today a former colleague of mine and good friend, the Honourable Jeanette Petitpas-Taylor, Minister for Official Languages and Minister responsible for the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency. Et je pense que nous avons le vidéo prêt à jouer maintenant.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. It is a true pleasure for me to be here as Minister responsible for the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency to help launch today's discussions. The title of this event, A Growing Opportunity, Atlantic Bubble to Atlantic Boom, is really appropriate. La conférence d'aujourd'hui est une opportunité pour échanger sur les enjeux qui nous touchent au Canada atlantique et discuter des pistes de solutions qui s'offrent à nous pour assurer une relance économique forte et inclusive. Nous avons tous vu les collectivités, les entreprises et les gens de notre région faire preuve d'une très grande résilience face aux défis extraordinaires causés par la pandémie. And although there are still many challenges ahead, I am confident that Atlantic Canada will emerge not only stronger, but as a leader for the rest of the country. From the beginning of the pandemic, the Government of Canada took swift and concrete action to help Canadians through a number of COVID-19 related support programs. Dans les 2 dernières années, l'APEC a investi un demi-milliard de dollars pour aider les entreprises et les organismes pendant la pandémie. Ça a permis de protéger plus de 20 000 emplois dans nos collectivités. A COBA support to help keep businesses afloat, embrace e-commerce, and transition traditional storefronts into online retailers. Now, the agency is looking into the future, and we are looking forward to strengthening the region's industries and communities by focusing on some of the key priority areas. These priorities include sectors such as advanced manufacturing, bioscience, ocean, clean growth, and technology-based startups. We are focusing on goals that will not only grow these sectors, but Atlantic Canada's economy as a whole. I look forward to working with you in building a thriving, inclusive, and vibrant economy for all Atlantic Canadians. Merci encore et bonne conférence à tous et à toutes.
Again, we'd just love to thank Minister Petitpas-Taylor for her greetings, and I'd be remiss if I didn't also congratulate ACOA for what I believe last week was their 35th anniversary, if I saw correctly. I'm looking at ACOA folks. Yes, it was. Fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. Okay, yes. So we've got an exciting agenda for you all today, whether it's discussing the secret sauce behind scaling up, to talking about people, technology, and the enablers for growth in the region, or again, having a conversation with the Honourable Frank McKenna. So we really look forward to that today, and we want to thank again our partners at the University of New Brunswick for making that possible. Throughout the day, if you do need anything, my colleagues will have a yellow badge on, so please do feel free to flag us down. As Matt already mentioned, refreshments, washrooms, they're just out in the foyer. And I would also say please feel free to share on social media. So you can tag us at PP Forum CA. You can tag UNB at UNB. And as you can see on the slides, we have our lovely hashtag PPF Atlantic. So please do feel free to tag us. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce the Public Policy Forum's President and CEO, Edward Greenspan, to the stage to share some interesting things that the Public Policy Forum is working on in the region. Ed, over to you.
Thank you. Merci. Bonjour à tous et à toutes. It's great to be in Fredericton today, celebrating and championing inclusive and sustained long-term innovation and growth within the Atlantic region. Now, it's always great to be in Fredericton and New Brunswick. And truth be told, and this is a fact, I have been in Fredericton more than in any other city since COVID travel restrictions were relaxed. I think this is my 3rd or 4th time here in recent months, and that's of course because it's a great place to live and visit, and we will be discussing some of its great potential in a few minutes. But even more than that, and I want to let you in on a small secret, New Brunswickers have been quietly and steadily and stealthily taking over all key decision-making positions at the Public Policy Forum over the last couple of years. They haven't all revealed themselves. It's kind of like Canadians who are in the United States, you know, kind of being anchors on TV and playing Abraham Lincoln in movies and doing things like that. You can't always tell, but New Brunswickers are getting me here much more frequently, which I appreciate. In fact, I noticed that the mayor Kate Rogers came in, and it's the first time that the mayor has been here to greet me on my trips to Fredericton, so thank you so much for that. Now, the key point is that growth and innovation are going very strongly in Atlantic Canada, and the Public Policy Forum wants to work with you so that that success breeds more success, that the gaps between this region and the rest of Canada become a relic of the past as they belong, and I'm sure we can all feel that there's something really happening within our grasp. Here we are today on the campus of the University of New Brunswick, which is a great friend to PPF. Higher learning is the single most important determinant of regional success and personal success. Higher learning, research, the kind of attributes that drive universities. And, you know, and I'm sure you all know this because I'm not from here, and most of you are, but nonetheless, let me be the bearer of this information. You know, before there was a McGill, back when the University of Toronto was known as Hogtown High and had nobody, you know, get past grade 9, there was one university in this country, and it was the University of New Brunswick. It had the first engineering school. It had the first forestry school, and by God, the first computer science program. It is a leader in cybersecurity. It's home to the New McKenna Institute. So this is also the place, apparently, where you go when you're looking for a coach who can carry you through the Memorial Cup. You come to UNB. So it's a special kind of place, and you can imagine how thrilled PPF is to have such a good friend at UNB. I want to thank Dave McGee, the Vice President of Research, our friend Matt DeCourcy, the Senior Advisor for Strategic Engagement, and President Paul Mazarol for their support and partnership with PPF. PPF is blessed to have good friends throughout New Brunswick, throughout Atlantic Canada, throughout Canada as a whole, and Frank McKenna is one of them. Recently I attended the first event of the McKenna Institute in St. Andrew, and by God, I swear you didn't have to shut your eyes to think that Frank McKenna was still the premier of this province. Don't tell the premier I said that, but I think it was kind of clear to everybody in the room that he has, retains the great vision for this province, and we we celebrate success in public policy, and one of the things we have is our Atlantic Awards, which are named for Frank McKenna, as in Western Canada, they're named for Peter Lougheed, some of the great policy and political leaders of all time. Other friends of PPF are with us today, and I just want to make note of my director, because you should always make note of members of your board of directors, but this one actually totally deserves it. Laurel Broughton, who is the president and CEO of Nova Scotia Business Inc., and up there is former Nova Scotia Premier Stephen McNeil, who's with us today as well. Another friend of PPF, great friend of PPF, is not with us, is Margaret McCain, and we are very appreciative that she's invested the seed capital into PPF's Atlantic initiative that has getting us started on our ambition to be more deeply involved in this region. Margaret believes in us, we believe in her. My colleague Katie Davey, you've met, a former UNB student president, and one of the part of the secret society within PPF, I think actually the ringleader perhaps, has written some of the most insightful stuff in the country about what it takes to get childcare right. It's one thing to say childcare, just like it's one thing to say electrification, or many other things that we say pretty quickly, but it's another thing actually to have the policies to put that in place. And in this case, that includes the labor to put it in place, the people who are working. So we are rediscovering as a country, I think, that we need supplies of a lot of things. Supply is a challenge for the country. Supply of people, supply of electricity, supply of housing, supply of infrastructure for export, and on it goes. And this will be one of the things that we concentrate a lot as an organization. And I hope you'll involve us with that work. Population, the world's kind of flipped on its head in terms, and particularly maybe in this region where there used to be a lot of surplus labor looking for jobs. Now there's a lot of jobs looking for surplus labor. It's turned around, and that's a sign. That's a good sign. I know it's difficult. I find it irritating, difficult as we're recruiting, but it is a sign, and it's also a message. And the message is that we need to rely more on innovation. We need to rely more on robotics, automation, et cetera. We need to have a lot of the routine stuff done for us and create better jobs, more fulfilling jobs, better paying jobs up the chain, and that again is a big part of our Atlantic Initiative. I just want to talk about the origins of that for a moment, because as the pandemic took over our lives, PPF couldn't help noticing that something unique was happening in Atlantic Canada. Infections, cases of infection, hospitalizations were remaining remarkably low compared to other regions of the country, including where I live in Ontario. And although each death was a tragedy, at least there were fewer tragedies per capita occurring here. And PPF will be presenting some national and international comparisons of 10, 11 countries actually in the next 10 days on June 27th. There'll be a kind of first look at how Canada fared in that pandemic, and Canada didn't fare too badly, as it turns out, and Atlantic Canada fared particularly well. I can remember being on a group call with about a dozen friends in late 2020, and half of us were in Ontario and half of them were in Atlantic Canada. The ones in Ontario, we were in solitary confinement in our homes, one person per Zoom screen, and like my friends in Atlantic Canada were like gathered in each other's homes, having dinner as we were speaking. So there was something that really caught the attention of the rest of the country around good governance, around social cohesion. We were rightly worried in Canada about polarization, but I don't think we're as worried about it in Atlantic Canada with a strong sense of community. And I got to say, as somebody who lives outside this region on a regular basis, although as visits, every week and a half or so, it was worth tens of millions of dollars worth of advertising. Canada kind of stood up and took notice that there's something going on that's good on the East Coast. And of course, this occurs at the same time that population growth is being restored, as there's a steady stream of unicorns in the woods, as my friend Gord Pitts wrote, occurring. We've worked with the federal and provincial governments in past and private and academic sectors to improve immigration attraction and acceptance of immigration, and that seems to have taken. We kept saying to ourselves throughout this that we want to be more present in Atlantic Canada, and that there is an historic opportunity to build on the opportunity that has presented itself and the momentum to go from an Atlantic, as per the words that were up there on the screen before, from Atlantic bubble to Atlantic boom. And we've asked Katie Davey to lead this initiative. We've hired our first employee in the region, Alicia Whelan, who is somewhere in this room and is based in Moncton. The critical issues, it seems to me, or the critical pathway, is that what target should we be aiming for? Where, there's momentum, and where do we want that momentum to go in 2030, say, during the 2020s, and plug those gaps, get ahead of national averages, not behind the national average. The record is encouraging, but the job's not done. The population is increasing, but the region still struggles with low birth rates, an older population, growth of populations concentrated outside the key 15 to 64-year-old working age areas. The region's begun to welcome people from within and beyond Canadian borders, but there's a crying need for the services and infrastructure that will enable them to stay. The average price of a house in Halifax is up 33%, Mr. Former Premier. I think that's, a sign of something good in the water, but, difficult for people to get themselves established when you're trying to grow your workforce, your talent. More than 50,000 people sit on the wait list for family doctor in New Brunswick. having to deal with a healthcare system that's exhausted and strained from COVID-19. So we have to revisit health, something PPF is gearing up to do as well. So today is part of setting up these discussions, ones that identify actions that need to be taken, actions that will be taken. At PPF, we talk about a principle we call inclusion to conclusion. By that, we mean getting the right people in rooms to figure out the issues, and from different perspectives, and having some tension in those rooms, but coming to a conclusion, like getting out of those rooms with an action plan that we move forward. So this is a moment to grasp onto the success gained during the pandemic and prove that everything, including regional equality and opportunity and leadership, is possible. I look forward to the discussions. We look forward over the coming years to working closely with you to achieve those goals, and by 2030, just having it completely right. But thank you. Merci. Wuluwan.
Ed, thank you so much for your ongoing partnership with UNB as we as an institution endeavor to raise our game as a place where important conversations take place in our community and regionally. This partnership with the Public Policy Forum allows us to amplify that Atlantic voice to regions of the country who sometimes, some of us feel, may overlook the secret sauce that is bubbling on the stovetop here. But we're so pleased to have a partner in Public Policy Forum who is focused on figuring out just what ingredients make things tick so well here in our region. Alors, merci beaucoup de votre partenariat continu. I have the pleasure now to move us into the substantive part of the afternoon. And I'm going to welcome these four folks to the stage, and they can come and assemble down here. First of all, I'm going to introduce our moderator for this next session, entitled Scaling Up Business in Atlantic Canada, The Secret Sauce. And that's Dr. Dhirendra Shukla, Chair of the J. Herbert Smith Center for Technology Management and Entrepreneurship here at the University of New Brunswick. Dhirendra, you can come on forward. And I'm going to invite Laurel Broughton, who was just introduced by Ed earlier. She is not only a board member with PPF, but is also the president and CEO of the Nova Scotia Business Inc. Terry Malley is the president and CEO of Malley Industries, and Mark McAllister is here, CEO of Verisource Solutions. Let's give them a round of applause. I'm going to properly tee up the slide, and Dhirendra, you're going to allow these folks to introduce themselves, so I'm going to sit down. Thanks very much.
Thanks, man. It's a huge honor, firstly, to be here sitting with amazing people that I have a huge amount of love and respect for, and getting their insight is going to be huge for everyone sitting in the audience. So in terms of self-introductions, Terry?
We love you too.
Thank you. I'm glad someone does.
My name is Terry Malley. I'm CEO of Malley Industries, based in the Greater Moncton area. My company manufactures specialty vehicles, namely ambulances and specialized vehicles for people with disabilities. We also do thermoform plastic products for the automotive sector, as well as aerospace and food and other industries. Graduate of UNB, started the business 40 years ago when I was in my second year of university with my dad, and we're going on to the next generation now. Our company, about 70% of our business is export, primarily to the U.S., but also to South America and all across Canada and parts in the Middle East. We have about 75 employees, and looking forward for this afternoon.
That's awesome. Thank you. Laura?
Bonjour tout le monde. Comme a été dit, je suis la directrice générale de l'entreprise Nouvelle-Écosse. J'ai été née en Saskatchewan et j'ai vécu tout auprès de tout notre pays. En 2013, j'ai décidé que la Nouvelle-Écosse serait ma nouvelle place pour habiter avec ma famille. In 2013, I moved from Ontario to Nova Scotia and chose to call Atlantic Canada home after living in 6 provinces across the country. Nova Scotia Business Inc. is the economic development agency for the province of Nova Scotia. We do export development, investment attraction, have a regional team, drive CapEx, have a loans and old VC portfolio that we run on behalf of the province. And until April 1st, we ran the Film and Television Fund as well. Prior to leading Nova Scotia Business Inc., I had the privilege to draft a lengthy report for Premier McNeil about charting a path for growth in Nova Scotia and how we can do that in terms of tackling our taxes and regulations. Prior to that, I served in the Ontario government as a cabinet minister over 10 years, and the decade before that, I was a litigator. So that's a short snap of my story.
All right, it's hard to follow those introductions, but Mark McAllister, born and raised here in this beautiful city of Fredericton. I think Edward said it well. This is a great place to live and visit. I have 3 children and live downtown and work downtown. Our office is based just downtown on Carlton Street. If you have used MyHealthNB, you've used our software. We started our company in 2014 to get people access to their healthcare information, and COVID was a major positive force for our company. Absolutely opened some doors that needed opening, I think, and it'd be lovely to see those doors stay open and us to continue to push through them. Personally, I get to do all sorts of things here in the city. I've coached Drendra's kid.
Huge highlight.
It's a small. I was just thinking about the network we have here and the ability to have trusted relationships, and there's a special way to work here in Atlantic Canada. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Mark, as you bring it up, recently I posted a picture on Facebook when I was 12. That was my first trip to Canada, and that changed my life to a point that when I finished school in the UK, I wanted to end up in Canada because that's how much I loved when I visited Canada. So this was my first trip to go to the same places. When I was 12, I went around, I took my whole family around the same places. So when you talk about falling in love, about a beautiful place in Fredericton, I fell in love with Canada when I was 12. And it's I constantly fall in love every time I meet people, I go out. So I totally jive with all those things that you're saying. Terry, I met a friend of yours, Pierre Batta, who came to my class to talk about, your venture, your company. Really interested in knowing how did the company get started? What drew you to to continue the legacy? So keen to hear about the genesis of the company and you and your commitment.
Well, my father was a serial entrepreneur, and like I said earlier, I was actually in my second year at UNB. He was in the RV business, and he wanted to start manufacturing recreation vehicles, and he asked me if I was interested in that, and I said no, not really. I wanted to be in business, but that wasn't what I wanted. But at the time, the custom van craze had really started, and I don't know if any of you older people here remember it, with the big murals on the side and all that stuff. And he said, well, what if we did those too? And I said, yeah, well, that makes sense. So anyway, that's really how it started, how I got involved. So for finishing up my last 2 years at UNB, I set up my classes. So I was taking classes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And Tuesdays and Thursdays and weekend, I was commuting to Moncton for 2 years and working in the business. So that's really how it started. And then from there, that was a short-lived trend. And from there, we had an opportunity to build ambulances and other specialty vehicles, and it just evolved from that. Awesome. But it was really the kickstart my father gave me to get involved in the business. But like I say, it was a springboard from that point.
The importance of the role that family play in everyone's lives is critical.
Yeah.
Laura, a little bit about you in terms of you talked about all these exciting things you had done, and you are in Nova Scotia. So tell us a little bit about the organization. What drew you to lead the organization, and what are you excited about?
So when I moved to Halifax in 2013, it really was to recalibrate our family life. I had my twin boys when I was a cabinet minister, Minister of Environment, first and only woman in Ontario to have a baby, and I had two. And I went back to work very quickly afterwards. And so it really was an opportunity for us to say, okay, we need to have a rebalancing of life. But I'm not a person that can sit idly, and immediately started an international consulting practice, but then really wanted to improve the place that I had chosen would be my new home. Yeah. How can I do that? What a better opportunity than the opportunity to lead the Economic Development Agency. And I remember on the very first early days, someone asked me about, was I doing this so that my kids could stay in Nova Scotia? And I said, I'm doing it so that my kids can choose to stay in Nova Scotia if they want to, but if they want to go somewhere else, then that's what I want for them. And I really think that's what we all want, to create opportunity for this generation and the next generation, and and to make sure that quality of life. So it's an absolute easy job to sell Nova Scotia, to sell Atlantic Canada. It's a fantastic quality of life. It is a place where you know your neighbors, and I'm involved with another group called Roots of Empathy, and we believe in the research that we've been doing that why Atlantic Canada did very well during COVID is we are empathetic to each other. We care about each other. We didn't say it's my way or the highway. I only care about myself, and that's something to really be able to talk about. We have exceptional universities. We have all of these great things. What did COVID do for us? It put us on the map, but it changed the game. COVID-19 changed the reality of the business community in good ways and bad. So I want to get to talk to both of those, but in good ways, it does not matter where you're working from. Yeah. You can do business to anywhere in the world from here. You can sell your products to anybody from here, but you are competing with everybody from here. And so on a personal note, those twin boys are 16 years old now. One of them is running a tech startup, and he's on his first business trip in San Francisco this week, which was a little bit of heart palpitation for a mom, and he wouldn't want me to be talking about him. But from Halifax, he's raised $700,000. And he's down in San Francisco with a group of young U.S. entrepreneurs who see no limits. That's what we want for our entrepreneurs here. No limits, no barriers, being very bold and very brave. So I hope that NSBI has a part of that.
Isn't that wonderful? A little bit about, you brought in the impact of COVID, but prior to setting up Verisource, keen to understand how you established, why you established, and what was that trajectory?
Yeah, it's good we're talking about family, because that's a big impetus about why we started. So I'm a UNB computer science grad, really no business being a CEO, but here I am. And so I was actually working as a consultant, helping to build out the infrastructure of the New Brunswick Department of Health. So a lot of money was going into these big back-end systems, electronic health records, things that were going to help physicians. And I spent 7 years doing that before I started Verisource. I was becoming increasingly frustrated that I saw all of this investment happening, but there was no difference in the care my family received. There was no way that we could operate in a different way. I knew all of that information, all that data, all these things that could make a difference were back there, and we actually took my middle daughter to the ER, and it was just, anyway, you guys, maybe some of you have experienced it. It was not pleasant. It was a long day. And after that, I threw my hands up, and I said, I'm done, and I'm going to start something that's going to make a difference. And in 2014, with the support of some really strong mentors in my life, we started Verisource. It took 3 years, 4 years maybe, of bootstrapping. and a lot. It was a lot harder then than it is now, I'll tell you. So it was good to go through some of those hard times, but trying to build those networks and prove that we had something that was going to be able to make an impact was extremely difficult in those early years. And then just ahead of COVID, actually, we got connected with Dr. Aksheme here at UNB, and we formed a partnership through the Healthy Seniors Pilot Program, and our software got proven and commercialized, and ACOA came on board, and NRC came on board, and funded us to the point where we now have world-class software that can compete anywhere in the world, to your point. So, yeah, it's the family base. My daughter's now 15, so it's been quite a journey for sure.
Thank you. So the theme, I think that's what makes Atlantic Canada, one of the core things that makes Atlantic Canada special is the connection to family and connection to what is important, giving them opportunities, global opportunities. So looking at that, and when you're looking at COVID, what have been some of the challenges? Maybe you want to touch on COVID, maybe. So sure. As your business has grown, what has been some of the challenges that you've faced?
Well, right from the beginning, I guess we were fortunate when COVID began. We were declared essential right away, so we never closed, and because we're obviously creating an essential tool that the healthcare system needs. But I think from a challenging point of view, as with most companies, was supply chain. That was the biggest thing, and particularly in the motor vehicle business, there's been a worldwide shortage of semiconductors, and that has impacted us in a lot of ways, in the sense that our orders for vehicles were very slow, even to a trickle in some cases, and that I guess on the flip side of that. Despite having trouble delivering, the orders kept coming in. And it was, in all the years I've been in business, it was really a phenomenal thing to be almost selling futures. People said, we'll wait, here's our PO. And it's to a point now that we're booked ahead a year and a half. And we still are, the vehicle trickle is still, it's getting better, but it's still a challenge. The other interesting thing about our staff, we didn't, early on, or for almost the first 2 years, we didn't lose anybody to COVID. Our staff unanimously agreed, and we supported it, is that everybody in the building had to be vaxxed. And everyone did, 100%. And the only really challenge we had with some absenteeism was since Omicron at Christmas time, and but by that time most people had their 3 shots, and they'd be out for 3 or 4 days, and there was no long-term thing, so we got through that okay. But I guess our biggest challenge is still the supply chain issue.
Hopefully, as time goes on, do you see it easing?
Well, I think what's happening is that like for vehicles, for example, we used to order our vehicles every 3 or 4 months, as we needed. Now we're buying a year ahead, which is, that's obviously, it leads to finance issues and stuff like that. Banks have to get involved. But and the same goes for the, we call them the golden nails. It's those $5 parts that you need to finish a $150,000 vehicle, and you're short of them. We tend to be carrying a lot more inventory than we normally would, but. We're managing it well, and we're staying on top of it, so we can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
That's awesome. In terms of the businesses that you're working with, what are you seeing as pre-COVID, some challenges, during COVID, post-COVID? What are you seeing and hearing from the businesses? What the challenges are?
So maybe I'll do first our business.
Yes,
at NSBI,
sure.
We do export development investment attraction. That means we get on airplanes.
Yes.
March 2020, we didn't get on airplanes anymore, and the world ground to a halt, but we had to still do our work. So what did it do for us? Within 2 weeks, we launched digital tools for our clients, and within 8 weeks, we launched a new program in terms of digital adoption. So it really improved our game in terms of our digital marketing assets, our digital presence. We could rely on, getting somewhere, doing a trade show booth, bringing a company here to get them to decide they loved Nova Scotia, they loved Atlantic Canada. When you can't get them here anymore, how are you going to give them the secret sauce? Virtual reality goggles, various different things. So we really, really improved what we're doing, and we're trying to keep some of that, right? Because that will continue our presence. Because at the end of the day, any company that's looking to relocate somewhere in the world does 80% of their research online before they ever even talk to you. So if your digital assets are not strong, you're losing out right away. So that, I think, is a key part of it. In terms of the companies, absolutely, we had to find ways to help them. So we launched programs to get their digital marketing assets stronger, because it's not the same to do a virtual trade show as it is to be on the floor. If you sell something that's physical, you would usually show it. You would look at it, right? You have to have great camera angles, all sorts of ways to sell this product, and new ways to do lead generation and all different things. So I think on the digital side, we've got to keep a hold of what we improved, and we're going to bring back some of that personal element. We are back out on the road. Everybody's coming back with COVID, though, so that is the only problem with being back out on the road. Right, because you're traveling to far places and you bring back different strains, but different than before, a couple of days and not that sick. So I think that that's key. The virtual, I said there was sort of good and bad. You can live in Fredericton and work for a company in Silicon Valley, but you can live in Fredericton and work for a company in Silicon Valley, and that doesn't make it easy for you. So yesterday I was sitting down with a bunch of our clients, and they are competing with salary levels from the rest of the world. And maybe we used to have a false sense of, I never wanted my team or allowed them to say we were a low-cost jurisdiction. That's not the world I want to be in. But we were a medium, moderate cost. We shouldn't really talk about cost anymore. We're a great place to live, a great place to scale your business, all of those things. But your tech talent can work for anybody. And so that is a bit of a game changer for businesses to figure things out. But at the same token, a virtual meeting is nothing. And we used to think you needed a U.S. address, which is why we started Cambridge Scale-Up Hub. We had companies down in the U.S. with their address. I don't think anybody really asks where you're got on the Zoom or the Teams from anymore. It doesn't matter.
That's true.
So those, again, are really positive things for us, but everything is a bit of a double-edged sword. So you have to just figure out how do you manage it.
That's awesome. I mean, awesome that you're able to, everyone's looking at, most people say, oh, COVID, what an impact it had. Yes, it had impact. But is how do you continue to persevere and build through it and create opportunities within? And that's a great point for Mark, for you to talk about, because you started the whole conversation in the sense that if you have used, your platform, if you're in, I think, New Brunswick and other places, other provinces, so keen to understand in the sense, how did you move to that application? And it was a critical application. What kept you up at night, and how were you able to keep scaling and doing great things? Obviously, I'm biased because I use the app all the time, and I know you, so I was very excited to see all of that. But please tell us a little bit about that.
You're asking me what keeps me up at night?
No, but that transition being on that to deliver, right?
Yeah, we're about 40 people now. When COVID hit, we were somewhere in the 8 to 10 people range, and we definitely almost killed our team during the start part of COVID. We would not want to reproduce that. We actually had Canada Health InfoWay reach out, because of the work we'd already done pre-COVID. They reached out to all the deputy ministers across Canada and said, this company is the company you want to work with to handle your COVID response. And of course, we all know every healthcare system is different in every province to some extent, but we did get good uptake, and we've had over 1 million people use our platform during COVID, which is beyond expectations, honestly, of where we thought we'd be. The scaling, well, first of all, I'm a Wallace McCain member, and I know there's a lot of us in the room here. I see a few pins around. That's where I got my business training. I consider that my MBA, but it's also where I built a cohort of friends, people that I would go to with anything, and that's that level of trust I think that we have here. We were able to continue meeting somewhat through COVID, some online, which we'd all had enough online, but the ability to maintain that thread with people, really none of them, well, maybe a few in similar situations, but we all have similar issues right through this pandemic. And then I was fortunate enough to be with Terry and you in the Scale Up Atlantic program as well, and we learned a lot of tools through that. But really, we've hit these kind of glass ceilings. So we built our company those first few years just like almost in panic mode, right? We will do anything for anybody. And then once we started getting a little traction, you got to adjust your processes and change. And then when we hit 20 people, we had to adjust and change the way we were again. And how do you continue to build a company that's got that culture and that we attract talent? We're talking about Silicon Valley companies. We attract people from Silicon Valley companies who might have to take a pay cut because, we just can't unless our pricing is going to go through the absolute roof. But people come because there's something different. There's a culture, there's a togetherness. There's also one differentiator as well is some Silicon Valley companies, you're stuck in your house all day. And if there's a chance to come together with people, even if it's not every day, but a chance to gather together, there's been huge benefits to that as we've come out of these restrictions a little bit. But even now, as we're at about 40 people, we're at another place now where I need to be less operational and more vision focused and whatnot. And I have a hard time letting some of that stuff go. But it's every day I'm learning, and if you want to talk about what keeps me up, we can have another conversation later.
Over drinks.
It's a longer story.
Thank you very much. Now, Terry, looking at, I know that you mentor and talk to a lot of students and things like that, but keen to understand, there are many people that are thinking about businesses and what you wish you had known, advise your younger self. What advice would you give some of the people that are thinking about business or growing their business? What advice would you have?
First, I should qualify. When I was young starting out, being shy or bashful or whatever, you're always hesitant to talk to business people. And, I've learned long since then, and myself included, I'll talk to anybody who wants, to talk about business or stuff like this. And that's, I do get a lot of young people starting startups and stuff like that, calling me wanting advice and stuff like that, and I'm glad to do it. One of the being in Atlantic Canada has its ups and downs. I'm in the manufacturing business, and logistically, it's not a great place to be. We're far from the market and everything like that. However, I think being in Atlantic Canada, you build strengths, and I guess my advice that I would give to anybody, not just young people, anybody in business or looking at getting in business, be prepared to take risks and make bold moves. And I think, to Mark's point, I think you took a big risk in the tough time during COVID, and I think that in our company, we do the same kind of thing. COVID had negative impacts on us, but it's easy to pull in. It's harder to push back out. And I always say it took me 20 years to be an overnight success. But and my wife and I we used to joke when we were starting out. It's your turn to eat tonight. But I think that. I think that if you're getting into business, you got to look at it for the long haul. And I don't want to offend anybody in the room here, but it troubles me sometime when people go into business with an exit strategy right away. And maybe that's being in a family-based business, and the next generation is stepping up to take the reins. Family is business and business is family, and it doesn't stop at 5 o'clock. And I think if you're getting into business and you're prepared to think that way, that it's all or nothing, and take risks, but don't be stupid. Think about, plan what you're doing, but be in it for the long haul, because overnight successes are very rare.
Now, your vast experience, you've met a lot of people. What advice would you give people that are looking at business? What suggestions would you have? What advice would you have for people?
Well, I think that was good advice of take risk and be bold. I would also say lift your head up, look around the world, and try to see what's ahead of us. I mean, I think I've been in a privileged position in being able to travel all around the world and sell Nova Scotia. Premier McNeil was with me on lots of those trips, and we would walk away with our eyes wide open and think, wow, these folks are hungry. They are competing. They are taking risk. We have to do that, and we have to bring this back to our companies and support them to be able to do that. If we really take stock of where we are in the world right now, talent, global competition for talent, we need, as Atlantic Canada, to do everything we can to get the best and the smartest people to move here. So we need to look at H-1B visa holders. We need to look at new immigrants. We need to look at migrants. We need to get the university grads to stay here. And then we need to set them up to set the problems of tomorrow. Because if we don't have a planet to look after us or to live on, we won't have anything. So Michelin is a huge company in Nova Scotia, and their motto is people, profit, planet. And that's, triple bottom line. I worked on that 25 years ago. It's still the same thing. You need those three things to succeed, and we have them here, but we got to keep our eye on the ball, and we can't take things for granted. And we have to make it an inclusive, welcoming place, because we need every bit of talent to be able to work in our businesses and to feel included and want to be here.
Thank you. So, Mark, you mentioned several things, that you didn't have the business experience, you needed the network, you needed the people. So what advice would you give people that are looking at establishing or growing their business?
Yeah, I really was fortunate with mentors. Early days, 3 years is a long time to not make any money, and I had some mentors who really would not let me give up. I was ready a couple times, and to just say, we've got something, let's push through this. We can find another way to fund this. It was really important to me early days. And then as we kind of got rolling a little bit, I heard a quote at one of my Wallace McCain retreats where you heard why I started the business. It was kind of aspirational. We wanted to make a difference in everything else. The quote I got, and honestly, a lot of the people we attract to our company are people who want to have a purpose in what they do every day and not just be, a cog in the wheel. But the quote was, there's no mission without margin. So you actually have to sell something, right? A lot of companies start, we've got this great idea, or we've got, we're going to change the world, and all of that's great, but until someone's writing you a check, it is, and there's all sorts of ways to go out and get funding and everything else, but until someone is writing a check, I'm not sure if there's a business there, right? And how do you tell someone that who's super excited about what they want to do? Because these ideas can burst through if you're resilient and you have the right people around you, and you can sell something to somebody. That would be my advice.
Mission and margin.
No mission without margin. Yeah.
Go ahead. I like that one. I'll keep it.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah.
We're talking about the secret sauce in Atlantic Canada. So when businesses or people come to you, and maybe this time we'll start from Mark and move.
Oh, yeah. Not ready. I usually get them ahead of me, and then I get to think about it.
So when someone says, "Oh, I'm looking at Atlantic Canada to set up my business," what would you say are the secret sauces that most people will not really talk about?
The secret sauce to me is the way we can build networks that are at a deeper level of trust. I get to know almost all of the people at my size business because of the networks that I'm a part of. We also uniquely, and I've seen people come here specifically, our funding agencies are top. Like the COA relationship we have, the way that you can start your company out can be a little different, or you can get support during scale that you might not have in other parts of the country or the world. So building that network of trust, though, sometimes we can be a little exclusive. I grew up here and I met my friend in grade 2, and now we're going to go do business together. I've seen a bit of a change of that in the last maybe decade, and we've been very fortunate to be able to hire a lot of people who have moved here as well, and I've seen them kind of building into the mesh of the community, which has been really encouraging, because I don't want us to also be looked on as, Fredericton, the snobby city. Sometimes, I've seen that along the way, and I think it's really different than that over the last 10 years, so I'm super encouraged.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in terms of the secret sauce of Atlantic Canada, what comes to mind?
What we have used and sold as the secret sauce of Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada is the fact is similar, that you can get the decision makers in a room, that there is a common purpose, that there is a goal to build a strong community, to create the jobs of tomorrow, and people will take time to come and meet with somebody who might actually be their competitor to tell them, actually think the ecosystem would be stronger if you came here, and here's why I'm here, and here's what we do, and it's valuable for all of us to have talent, opportunities for talent. They can work for you, then they can work for me, and the family will stay, and all of these things. So I think that is probably as a result of a smaller size historically, but we all have a desire to grow Atlantic Canada. So we're just going to have to hold on to that and make sure that we keep that, because I think it is a real competitive advantage. I will tell people, as CEO of an SBI, I can get the decision makers in the room faster and quicker than I could as a cabinet minister in Ontario, because it's just too big, and people do not have the time to get together. I also think people will take the time to see you and talk to you and give that advice, and that makes it easier for entrepreneurs to succeed and understand the reality here and get that advice. The flip side is that people will take the time to see with you and meet with you and be nice to you, even if they're not going to buy your product, even if they're not going to give you a job. And so you have to recognize that it is a different world. If you were in the US or in Toronto, you wouldn't get a meeting. Only if the person thought, I really want to buy this. I really care. I need this person. So you do have to calibrate. Okay, well, I'll take what I can from this meeting, but I'm not counting that this is a sale, because people are really nice here, and they will take the time to meet with you. So what's your ask, right? Make that ask, and then move on from there if it's not going to be a sale.
And if you put that out up front, then you know that this is a friendly community, and it's not, they would meet with you, and you can have those real, genuine insights, and there might not be a margin at the end, but at least you're getting FaceTime. At least you're getting real answers.
And building your network.
Yeah.
Building your
Awesome.
network and taking the advice from someone who's experienced in business here.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Terry?
I would agree with both of them. I think that, well, at least in my industry, but I think in Atlantic Canada in general, the circle is small, and making networks are getting being a part of networks easier. I agree with what you said. A lot of times competitors will work together, or at least talk, compare notes and stuff like that. I mean, I've done it many times with my competitors, and I think that I think we're a little more inclusive too. I mean, I know in our own business, we have about 20% immigrants working for us, and great. They've been accepted. They work well with everyone else, and they add to the whole culture of the company. And I think there's a lot of that. But it was an interesting point you made about doing business in other places. Like, we do a lot of business in the U.S., and it's nothing like doing business in Canada. You knock on a CEO's door, you're either get the heck out of here or come on in and sit down, and an hour later you're walking out with a PO or something. But doesn't work that way in Canada. You're here for the long haul, particularly in my business anyway. But Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, even if I wanted to call you, I could get a hold of you, which or the Premier even. It's a little different if you're Ontario or Quebec or something like that. So, I mean, I think we do have that smaller scale advantage.
Thank you. One thing that our friend Dr. Diane Eisenberg says is that when a tree falls in a forest and you don't see it or don't hear it, did it really fall? And I think one thing that Atlantic Canadians need to do is talk about this secret sauce. And obviously we heard how we have planted some agents in organizations that are doing great work for us, and more of that is needed. I think, I'll be honest, I moved to Atlantic Canada. My wife said we're only staying here 1 year. 1 year. And after that, when I did have a job offer to move somewhere else, she said you can leave by yourself. Right? So there is, and now her advice, so her secret sauce about Atlantic Canada is that if you are coming to visit, don't drink the water. The more you drink the water, it does something to you that you naturally fall in love with the place. The longer you stay, you just simply fall in love with it again and again and again. So the secret sauce for me is the people, the community, the network, the environment, and for my wife, the water. So thank you very much. It's a wrap, and thank you very much to the panelists. Thank you.
So I guess I'm a sleeper agent, or, a plant, a seed. I'm growing, I guess. So thank you so much to that panel, Laurel, Mark, Terry, Durendra. That was so insightful, and frankly, I think every time I step on the UNB campus, I immediately kind of get this sort of vibe that I need to start a business. Like I just feel that energy here. Luckily our CEO is very good at empowering us to do policy innovation and to do kind of fun and interesting things with how we might support growing an inclusive economy in the region. So I'll look forward to continuing to do more of that. I think I can, let's see here. Okay, so we're heading out to a break right now. So we're going to be on a break until about 2:30, 2:35-ish, and you'll be heading into breakout sessions. So we've heard already about people, about technology, and about the enablers that make this inclusive economy possible in the region already today. But we're going to learn from you. We're going to share with each other, and these sessions will be in the following rooms. People will be in room 204, and that's going to be led by Adrian O'Prey. Technology, room 208, led by Durendra, who you just heard from. And then I'll be sharing and leading the session on enablers and disenablers in the Aiken room. Those rooms are in the upper horseshoe once you head out into the hallway. So we'll be pleased to engage in those conversations together after a quick break. And then we'll see you all back here in this room at 3:30. So looking forward to sharing and learning from you all, and enjoy the coffee for a few minutes. Thank you.